Hi there, it's Stu H on the Facebook group and Hardboil on the Homebrew forums. I'm doing this video today because I've seen a lot of questions pop up around brewing the bag systems or the, should we say, the gluten-based system. I use the BrewDevil 50L. I moved from a 2-vessel system, or an esky and a boil pot system. Some people have moved over from 3-vessel systems. You tend to see this kind of, there's a new concept that you bump into with an all-in-one system called full volume mashing. Now some people may have done that on a three-vessel system if their system was, I guess, large enough. Economies of scale, you don't always do that. Brewhouse efficiency is better with a sparge system, because on a full volume system you're going to leave some of the sugars behind in the grain, because then the grain isn't rinsed in a full volume mashing process, whereas in a sparging one it is. So quite simply, as a high level thing to start, a full volume mash, effectively what you're looking to do is to put the required amount of liquid in, minus obviously, or in addition to the grain absorption amount, the boil off rate, etc. So you're looking to put in the volume that will allow you to exit the mash with your boil volume, or your boil volume in the pot already ready to go. Whereas sparging, you mash with a smaller amount of liquid, and then you sparge through to bring it up to that boil volume effectively. So it's just two different ways of achieving it. This one is better on brewhouse efficiency, so the sparging method. The full volume is slightly less on brewhouse efficiency. Efficiency, but arguably could be more convenient. Doesn't require you to have a second vessel for heating up sparge water. Although I have to say, some people talk about sparging with cold water. You know, they don't worry about it too much and they get good results with that. I think as long as you, where it calls for it, the recipe, you complete your mash out, then I think that's, and you've gone through that process, it's changed what's going on from in the mash from the reaction perspective. The mash out's there to sort of shut that down. I think as long as you've done that, push comes to shove, it's just going to take a little bit longer to come up to the boil if you use cold water. So you could approach it either way. Any combination of those ways that I've just described, you can have a go and see how you go on. So I use BeerSmith, and I've seen a lot of questions come up around. I used to do a recipe in my full volume system, but it's telling me to mash in with this amount, but that just doesn't seem to work in the unit. So I've been thinking about that, and I've looked at the software, and I've kind of come up with a way to help you get over that problem. So effectively, we've got the BrewDevil. In my case, it's the 50L, and then inside the BrewDevil, we've got the malt pipe. And then below the malt pipe, we've got what is effectively some space between the bottom of the unit and the bottom of the malt pipe and the bottom of the boiler, effectively. And that space obviously is some people refer to it as dead space. I wouldn't refer to it as dead space, because the difference between dead space and this is recoverable, whereas dead space is non-recoverable. So if you think about it, if the tap is placed, say, here on the unit, and that's what you're using to drain out from, everything below that is non-recoverable, as long as you're not tipping the unit. Some people pump it out and pump it all of the contents of the unit out, and there's some interesting articles about how that affects flavour, or maybe improves flavour. So, but go your own way. But that's dead space because it's non-recoverable. This is recoverable, so we refer to this as a Mash Tun Addition. And on the 50L, the Mash Tun Addition is equal to 8 litres. So that's for the 50 litre, and then for the BrewDevil 30 litre, it's 6.5 litres. So that one, I can't guarantee that. I've been told that. I haven't ever measured that myself, but it's something I'll have a chat with the guys on the Facebook group and get somebody to definitely check that. So those are what we call the Mash Tun Additions. So how does that kind of affect your recipe and what you're doing? So in the old world, if you were mashing into a mash tun with very little dead space in the bottom and no mash tun addition, which most traditional boil mashing pots or eskies don't have a mash tun addition space, what you would have, let's say for argument's sake, your recipe called for 8 litres. Let's keep it nice and simple. 8 litres to mash in with. You'd effectively be in a situation where your grain bill up here isn't actually in the liquid. And the only way really that you're going to effectively do that is probably by very aggressively sparging. Your efficiency is probably not going to be very good. You really do need to soak or steep the grains. That's my preference. I'm sure there's other people who go other ways with this. So by going into your brewing software or adding your Mash Tun addition to your calculations, effectively, if your original recipe called for 8 litres, what it's going to do is by putting in a Mash Tun addition, the software will add and say an additional 8 litres and tell you to mash in at 16 litres. So to achieve, effectively, all you're really doing is if you're taking the value that your original recipe called for a mash in and just adding it to 8 litres. It's nothing fancy, but I'll put a screenshot up now of the BrewDevil profile in BeerSmith. All you need to do is, and my recommendation is go in, copy the one that you've got, rename it and save it. So I called mine plus 8 litres MTA Mash Tun Addition, right? So you've then got the no good profile to work back to if you're not happy or it's not working for you. You can go back and reuse the original profile. Make this change in there. This doesn't affect the recipe. So as I said, traditionally where it would have called for 8 litres, it will call for 16. Obviously, it's effectively just taking that away from the sparge value. So if your tradition, if it said previously sparge with, say, sparge with 8 litres and you add 8 litres there, it's going to be a no sparge. It's effectively going to be a full boil volume. If it was, say, I don't know, it's a 20 litre or something like that, then you're going to have a sparge of 4 litres, right, at the end. So to make up your boil volume effectively. So whatever these two things plus your sparge value is effectively your boil volume. The software works all of that out for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So if you go into BeerSmith, make the Mash Tun addition, set it to 8 litres, you can go back to using all your traditional recipes, or a lot of those traditional mashing profiles that come with BeerSmith, and they will work, and there will be no issue around dry grain or the grain not being submerged to the right level. So the other thing to do, of course, is you could do a full volume mash, which effectively, as I've said, is just putting the pre-boil volume into the BrewDevil and mashing with that. It's not complicated. However, there is a screenshot here I'll show you. There is a box you can tick in any recipe to say make it a full volume mash effectively, or a brew in the bag mash, and that will then just front load it. It'll tell you to put the full volume of liquid in at the beginning, yeah, so I think that kind of makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully this is useful in terms of understanding why you need to approach it slightly differently when you're moving to an all-in-one system or a brew in the bag system. There are some, if you go to the additions, I'll show you a screenshot of this now. If you go to the add-ons in BeerSmith, you can download the RoboBrew mashing profiles. I think that's quite useful to go and have a look at those, because you can either doctor those or you could create your own, right? As you know, my preference is to mash out. I've seen a couple of errors in some of the more traditional mashing profiles because it doesn't realise it's a brew in the bag system, and it doesn't realise it's going to be mashing out in the same pot. Therefore, it wants you to add water at 105 degrees because it thinks it needs the differential heat to mash out at. So just be aware of that. If you see that, just change that step from a mash step to a temperature step. You can manually edit those. But again, my recommendation is if you're modifying anything, just copy it, paste it back in, rename it, Mark 1, Mark 2, version 1, version 2, and just keep the original sets of profiles, because they can then become your known good point. If you go too far down a tree altering stuff, you kind of don't know where you began, and sometimes you can't work out quite why things have gone wrong. So just bear that in mind that you can do that. If you've got any questions on this, give us a shout. Come on the Facebook group, have a chat, or just leave something in the comments. I don't know if there's anything to add for the descriptions. Probably not. Yeah, just I'll have a look at maybe uploading a BeerSmith profile with these, the Mash Tun Addition already added in, but it's such a simple thing to do if you know how to use BeerSmith, but you don't need me to create a profile for you to download. So, okay, hopefully this was helpful, and I'll speak to you all soon. Good, thank you.